Date blocks are wrong. We're off by a day. It's going to happen constantly. Um, the meta is indeed eating all of you alive while the mundane eats me alive. Let's see. Let's see who dies first. All of humanity or me. Um, seriously, all it takes is a single individual to come and help Jubilee in Jubilee's life. And fucking crickets. Craziness. This is a large part of it. The idea that once we've seen someone for who they are, I know they're a sociopath. You can't fucking tell a sociopath. That's why we hand them over our children and our power. If all you can do is tell them after the fact, that's as useless as a broken psychic. Everyone we've handed over money and power to en masse, fucking psychotic. I don't care what label we give them. They are sitting on a pile of children in gold, right? Erica Kirk is a weird example of like blonde blondies who get away with like literally anytime somebody dies, you look at the spouse first, and instead the literal opposite. What should disconcern everyone is how much we pass over all of our power and children to these people. And then after the fact, after they've murdered their entire family, we're like, ooh, we could have told the red flags beforehand. Like she wasn't a red flag the entire fucking time.
The reason why you don't like Erica Kirk, or when you look at her, you go, huh, something's not quite right here, is because Erica Kirk has sociopathic tendencies. And I can't diagnose her as a sociopath. I'm not a mental health professional. I'm actually just an accountant. But my father's a sociopath. Like diagnosed sociopath. This isn't one of those situations where it's like my father was mean to me for a few times and now he's a sociopath. No, my father's a diagnosed sociopath with the upbringing and the pattern of behavior to prove it. And sociopathy is kind of like corn. You know it when you see it. You can't exactly point out why, but you know it when you see it. And it's the reason why she's not reacting in the way that we view as normal or acceptable when something is awful as what happened to her and her family and Charlie Kirk and all of that. That's why she's not reacting how you or I would deem acceptable or a normal reaction, right? That's why she's not doing it. It's because she's not really capable of it. She's trying to mimic it, but she can't do it fully because she doesn't have those emotions like you or I. I can't say whether she loved Charlie or not. I can't say whether she's capable of love. I can't say if she had anything to do with it. All I can tell you is I've noticed patterns in her that line up with sociopathy. The reason why you don't like Erica Kirk, or when you look at her,
Literally, someone taking her actual eyes, and then I don't know that this is like a Harley Quinn. I don't know. But like, look at them. This is a cartoon depiction of a human being. All right. That her dad is I would trust her gut feeling more, and pre Charlie being murdered, right? Post Kirk being Kirk, hindsight being 2020, it's not the win you all think it is. I fucking can't, especially with the signs and symbols. Thanks to Chelsea, we have timestamps. We're just really gonna go to the first one. I copy and pasted the timestamps from where she put them on my video, which would be for my video. It did work though. It did. I can just click on them here, and it will be for this video. Um, but if I'm correct, and I haven't yet clicked on it, she just mentioned McKinley, which is the one who died on my brother's birthday after being shot on September 6th. He died on September 16th. The reason we're watching this is Erica Kirk's birthday is known as November 20th, but on a bunch of child documents for custody and such, it's November 22nd. And as Candace points out, that's like the only date that you need to get right in a custody case is when 18 hits, and you have to stop paying. But McKinley, the other assassin, with four, if we can count the brother of JFK. JFK was assassinated on my mother's birthday when she was 8 years old. Then a few years later, when she was still a kid, JFK's brother was assassinated. My mother would go on to give birth on the date that he died, RFK. And then her mother, my grandmother, my sister's grandmother, died on the anniversary of Lincoln dying, and my mother happened to give birth to her youngest child on the death date of McKinley. Only one president isn't included in the dates, and he's in with Kyle Cease and someone else in both his birthday and death date. I don't remember what they are, but McKinley is the one who died September 14th.
Named Emma Goldman. Her family was from the Pale of Settlement. They were not bring their. You could also refer to the revolutionaries as murderous psychopaths. And then they emigrated in mass into the United States as victims. And they brought with them their revolutionary ideas. I like to say they were anarchists, obviously, but also you should think of them as gypsies in the truest sense of the word. They will learn any language.
In the truest sense of the derogatory word that is used to talk about the Roma people who were also killed in the Holocaust. And they're probably kind of polar opposite the samesies. The Roma and the Jewish people in the diaspora. Very different, very similar from the outside looking in. The other, right? The term gypsy is a derogatory term used for the Roma people. And she's like, in the truest sense, the derogatoriness we want to push in okay. Just the secret other. Oh, yeah, no, if the Jewish people didn't already exist under white supremacy, we would have had to create them to have white supremacy. The other amongst us. How do we know?
They have to come, move wherever they need to move. And wherever they go, they bring their filth with them. Okay. We get these migrants into the company, and then suddenly the people that are.
Now I listen to this before going to sleep and like, Candace, there's a lot that we don't agree on as far as like our ideology, and she's a Christian. I'm like, this gypsy thing. They bring their filth with the fucking slur. Wow.
Assassinated the Tsar. Then we get the first bombing in America at the Haymarket Square in Chicago. That involved, quote unquote, German immigrants. The assassination of President McKinley, done by a Polish man named Leon Czolgosz, who was radicalized by a Jewish Russian immigrant named Emma Goldman. Her family was from the Pale of Settlement. They were not like poor living in the Pale of Settlement. They were wealthy Jews, educated Jews. There are tons of books about what they did. I could do 12 episodes on Emma Goldman, by the way. Her alone, the amount of assassinations connected to her. She was also the woman that was behind Margaret Sanger, Planned Parenthood. Emma's boyfriend, also from the Pale of Settlement, tried to assassinate.
Well, that's having an ad. Looking up Emma, she died on May 14th. I'm sure we've looked her up before, but the day Israel was created. Interesting. Interesting indeed. There are a lot of Jewish people in all of the areas, in Hollywood, in finance, in science, in large part because they are a group that both has had historically, don't tell people you're that, and post World War II, go ahead, it's safe, even though it's deeply unsafe, all at the same time. Again, white supremacy would require the other amongst us. To have a family, a group of people, a community supporting you is an advantage, especially when you're allowed to be who you are because you were claimed. And they are pretty seriously claimed, those boys at birth, right? Days after birth. The brisk is a pretty permanent claiming of little boys. There's a lot in the Abrahamic religions and in our shared history, including all of the Jewish people, both in religion and in culture, in race, really, who are part of history. for good, for bad, for downright fucking ugly Rothschilds. Cousin Marion Grossi.
You've probably heard the story. They shick, and also from the Pale of Settlement, tried to assassinate Henry Frick of the U.S. Steel. He literally shot him. You've probably heard the story. They shot him, but Henry Frick survived. They're just murderous communists. I don't know what to tell you. And they did that, tried to kill Frick because they wanted to establish unions. So you learn in school.
They're like murderous communists and anarchists. Oh, like that's the murdery and not the penises, not the Christian Abrahamic penises all over the fucking place, dick slapping everyone, right? It's because they're commies. Okay, it's because they wanted to look after everyone. Who else was that? Wasn't that a Jesus thing? Jesus is a rotten commie.
Whoa, it was about workers' rights. Yeah. They organized these worker strikes and these protests, and eventually they were successful in establishing unions because that allowed them to establish racketeering mafias. You guys know unions are associated with mafia and the mobs. This is.
We just got to get rid of unions. Anything that brings the people together and workers. We just need to pass over more of our autonomy and money to billionaires. You know what I mean? As long as I'm making cookies, I get, you fucking can't. The delusion of you all of you, got me. Jesus was
our inheritance. Our entire history and our present is a gangster's paradise in America. Hollywood exists to glamorize the filthiest people, that work in the most debased industries. It's not entertainment. It's always been disgusting. It's always been about filth, prostitution, importing people from.
Which is theoretically, we're gonna listen to this whole thing because I need to clean, and if I can find one of mine to watch too, but this is probably gonna be much better, much better. So I'm gonna want to interrupt it to talk about, or probably. It's interesting who we are as a species, that the carnies became the Hollywood people. Howard, Leo DiCaprio in his 2004 one. I don't remember what his last name is. He inherited his money on my birthday. His daddy died on my birthday. And he inherited his wealth where he was working in Hollywood and aviation both at the same time. Crashed the plane when I was watching while the Titan was going on. Billionaires and their bravado, but also the idea that carnivals were a place where you would go and get a piece of the miraculous, a piece of fantasy for like a sliver in time, right? And then now we have movies and TV shows, sex and debauchery. Our shared version of hell is also our shared version of heaven. If everyone is exactly the same, right? Do you imagine how fucking boring the Christian heaven is? Potatoes, no spice, is what you're eating if there's food. Heaven forbid you all should really come help me save the world with all the assassination dates and all the ridiculous signs and symbols that are in the movies and TV shows that people are listening to. Y'all should really come help me save the entire world. But Erica Kirk's birthday is November 22nd. It's not she murdered her husband, right? It might as well be. It might as well be signs and symbols, JFK's assassination, Jamie Lee Curtis's birthday, Mark Ruffalo's birthday, who shares my acoustic neuroma, and my mother's birthday. All the people I've met along the way who share my mother's birthday, me not knowing until. Signs and symbols, Erica fucking Kirk. Why would they lie about, is it just 2 days or is it 2 days and 2 years? November 22nd, 1988. She's also in double-digit birthday. My mother's 55, my sister's 77, and Allie's 80.
Vienna and trying to collapse America. Successful all across Europe, what they did. The Christian empires got divided. And here we are today, right? This is what we're facing in America. You have to understand this.
All right. So how we actually get to world peace is by dealing with reality of the human beings amongst us. Iran and US are at war, which is basically Trump dick slapping, right? The Middle East with his penis. The world being like, but it's an orange penis, so it's okay. War is delusional as fuck. To think that Iran, right? Anyone got together, right, and decided. Literally, it's how it's supposed to happen. Instead, Trump just was like, what? Regular laws don't apply to me. I'm all orange and special. Come to the White House and have some fucking McDonald's. The hockey players, so special.
I'm going to be honest. There are some words that I want to echo out like a battle cry. Here they are.
President Donald Trump has said, I will not allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon because he has said when crazy people have weapons of unthinkable violence, you have to deal in reality. The longer I live, the more I realize that puritanical, ideological approaches to situations like this are not helpful. On one side is the Lindsey Graham, John Bolton types, where they are actively calling for regime change. Here is Lindsey Graham. This is just lunacy. We want to go all in and take out the regime. It's time for us to close the chapter on the Iranian Ayatollah and his henchmen and start a new chapter in the Middle East. And that sounds good, doesn't it? But what have we learned when it comes to wars, and especially wars in the Middle East? What you draw up on a whiteboard rarely happens. What you think theoretically is going to occur, there might be unintended and unforeseen consequences, especially when you're talking about a country 2.5 times the size of Texas. It has 90 million people and was an ancient and great power with well over a dozen ethnic groups. Who's going to run the country exactly, Lindsey Graham? This sounds like Hillary Rodham Clinton in Libya. So I'm pointing to the first extreme right now, the neoconservative extreme. We must go take off the head of the snake right now. And Donald Trump is doing a phenomenal job of resisting these calls for regime change. Yeah, the Ayatollah is awful, but maybe he's one of the few guys that can keep that country together and not have a 90 million person civil war. Lindsey Graham is so consistently out of his mind, it's hard to even comprehend. I honestly don't think the neoconservative extreme needs to be represented philosophically anymore. It's uninteresting to me. They've done a mess of Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, the entire Middle East, Ukraine. We know what the neoconservatives believe.
Oh, Charlie, if only you knew that they're trying to convince us that the legacy of Turning Point USA is actually neocons. Neocons will be opening for AmFest, people that want war, people who are cheering about regime change in Iran today are the very people that your wife is going to hand over the keys to, trying to convince us that that wasn't your perspective, that you didn't have issues with these people philosophically and morally, right? Moral blackmail, what these people were doing to you in the end. By the way, have we heard anything from that new CEO and chairman of Turning Point USA? Any statement over the weekend underscoring what Charlie's beliefs were? She loved Charlie, which, like I said, explains why she must have invited all of his enemies to sort of hostilely take over what he built. These people are shameless. So shameless, in fact, that over the weekend, his quote unquote best friends, despite us being able to clearly hear what Charlie felt about Iran, about the idea of regime change in Iran, his best friends, the amazing McCoy and, of course, wargaming Blake Neff, actually got into his studio and shared this. Take a listen.
He
also always did have trust with the president, and he would look for the bright side of things. And he was an American patriot, so he would pray for our success once that began. And I just want to say that to offer perspective on how I think he would have felt about this. And that's not to use Charlie as a shield. That is not to use, say, everything just revolves around him, because he's not with us anymore. But I know people, all of us are feeling the lack of Charlie in a moment like this, because he was a natural leader of the movement.
Well, I think that's also, like, as soon as all of this broke out, you saw that social media immediately went to go find Charlie clips, because he still is, even in death, like the leading voice on a matter like this.
Well, and sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and it makes me upset though, because for these people that didn't actually know Charlie, like Blake, you said it, in private, he would be not happy with the situation. And he would express his thoughts. You'd oftentimes see him talk about it on the show. But then as soon as this would happen, he would have trust in the president. He would try to calm people down. And so it's really irritating for me to see so many people on social media have the opposite reaction, to use his voice to actually cause chaos, to actually cause fear of the situation, to actually cause hatred of President Trump in this whole ordeal, when actually that's not what he would want.
I ordered myself some new glasses from this company called Kits.
Oh my god, I'm so excited. This is adorable. These make me so happy.
I ordered these like 3 days ago and they're already here, which was amazing.
There are hundreds of styles. You can see I had a hard time just picking one, but I highly recommend you try the virtual try-on to find your perfect pair.
Also, if you didn't like them, they had like this free return option, but why would you return them? They're so cute.
Grab some pairs from kits.com.
It really is just amazing to watch it. It's shameless, like I said. It's just shameless. They don't even care. They're going to get there. They've got the ghost of Charlie. Aha, we can direct the ghost of Charlie. Why are you sharing these old clips of him as if he would have stood against the president, even though he literally stood against the president and told him not to go to war with Iran? Trust me, if he would have been here, he would have been supportive of what the president is doing, which was explicitly against what Charlie shared in his own words. Shameless. Like Erica, having been slated to record something alongside Bibi Netanyahu and Ben Shapiro. No one even believed me. I tweeted that about a month ago. But they were slated to record something ahead of the Super Bowl. I don't know if it was for the Super Bowl, but it was just ahead of the Super Bowl at Mar-a-Lago. And last second, whatever they were going to record got canceled in the umpteenth hour. She was teaming up with Ben Shapiro and Bibi Netanyahu. And then maybe somebody was like, hey, this isn't a good idea. Because she loved Charlie. She loved him like Lyndon Baines Johnson loved JFK. No time to grieve. She needed to be sworn in as the new leader before his body was even cold. In case you didn't know this, LBJ was actually a crypto Jew, as they term it, a Jewish gangster. Crypto Jew, to be sure. More on that later. We'll talk more about that later. But first, let's recap what some of these characters that we've been introducing to you on Bride of Charlie. Let's recap them, because it's good to remind ourselves of all of the people that are in this very elaborate story. First and foremost, we introduced to you guys last week Dr. Jerry Franzfey. She's like Dr. Jerry Franzfey-Steen is what I'm going to call her. That is the first wife of Erica's father, Kent Franzfey. By the way, I then learned that they were married. I don't even know if I'm saying this right. Baha'i Temple in Chicago. That is where they were married. Just dropping that little tidbit for you guys. Dr. Jerry, we learned, was raised, these are her words, not mine, in a strict Mormon household. I guess then she must have become Baha'i. She was knocked up at the age of 14, married by the age of 14, a bookie turned psychologist, creator of the Tesseract model. Radford University gave her a research center, a gender research center. And guys, I forgot to mention this to you, but Radford University, their seal and their yearbook is the Beehive. I can't make it up. I cannot make it up. Anyway, back to Jerry.
It's weird. There was a URL that had a bunch of W's in it. I can't imagine what it is if it's not the one we're on, and it's not the one we're on. Is it mine? Nope. Well, this isn't that anyway. Maybe just different every time. Well, it's episode 5. It's the next one. Is it this one? It is this one. WQBWWOFYWWW. There's a lot of W's and an OF in the middle. That is it. Which? All right. What coffee's beeping for it being reheated? Baha'i temple in Chicago. Oh.
We also learned that she worked with the DuPont Chemicals, the DuPont Chemicals psychologist. She also worked with the Bush family, and she conducted, which we'll get into later, gender research specifically in Eastern Europe. Amazing. So many ties to Eastern Europe, Bosnia. We're going to get into that. Another character that we introduced you to was Uncle Jack Solomon. He is married to Erica's aunt, Carla Solomon. He graduated from what is today UVU, or at least that's what his resume says, his bio that he's given throughout speeches and his involvement. It was formerly called the State College, so it was Utah Valley State College, CS. He helped to build the UVU campus as a board member for UVU Center for Jewish Studies, professor of political science at BYU. I should mention, Jack was also the founder of what is today known as Bally Technologies. He's relevant because we're going to be speaking a lot about the casino connection to a lot of people. And Zion's Gate in Israel is his family's dedication, not Erica's, but his family's dedication. And of course, probably the one that took us on the greatest journey is Lori Abbas Stanley. Erica's mom, Lori Abbas Stanley Wallstad Franceveg Guinta. She's even divorced from Larry Guinta, however you say that. We'll just leave it here because we're going to build on her today. But corporations are coming out of her ear. She's got so many companies, and then they are never filing on time. They've got to be shuttered. Her first marriage, by the way, because some people messaged and asked, was to a man that sort of disappeared into the military. His name he actually passed away, James Melvin Stanley. Here's a photo of him. I am struck by how much he looks like Brigitte. I just want to say that this is the only photo I could find of James Melvin Stanley, her first husband. She got married to him, I believe, when she was 19 years old. But I looked at this and I went, mad. This looks like Brigitte. I don't know, just like a little funny little side thing. That's her first husband. She then married John Robert Wallstad. Do not yet have a photo of him. Just know that where Lori goes, fraud follows. Lotteries, casinos, gambling. These are familial themes, which we're going to build upon today. So let's keep with Lori. On Friday, we let you guys know that Erica's mother, Lori, has always used an Erpenbeck brother on her paperwork. He's signing things for her, helping her to form these many corporations. Rick Erpenbeck is his name, whose brother Bill did over 2 decades in prison for financial fraud, trying to kill his sister, threatening to kill his sister, burying cash on a golf course, just run-of-the-mill stuff, And Rick's father, Tony, tried to arrange for the kidnapping and murder of some kids because he was upset that he was getting time in prison. And yeah, like I said, run-of-the-mill stuff for a family. Well, one of you guys emailed us and alerted us to something pretty interesting. But we were kind of imagining whether or not they still had a relationship today. We can now confirm that it's not just Lori who was close to Rick, but Erica is close to Rick as well. Now, I want to be clear. Rick Erpenbeck did not do any time in prison. He said, I was a young college student. I don't know why my dad transferred me all of this money. And I'm very close with my brother, Bill. He was honest about the fact that he's close with his brother, Bill, throughout his testimony. This is his family, but he didn't do nothing and he don't know where this money came from. It's a story. He's sticking to it. He did not serve any time. It's important to stress that. like I said, I don't know that I would be super close with a family like that. Full stop. Well, you should know that Erica considers Rick to be her uncle. Like, again, she could just be saying uncle, like when you get close to someone, they've been around you your whole life. That's my Uncle Rick. But that's the reality. If her Instagram is to believed, if her Instagram account is to be believed, then you should know that she's very close to this person, because on December 1st, 2018, she went down to Universal Studios. You should know that that's where Rick works. And Erica documented that trip. She was with her mom. She's always with Lori. Lori's always in the background. And here is going to be very quick here because it's Instagram stories that she has saved, but you're going to see Uncle Rick. Take a look here.
Butterbeer? Butterbeer! When you pray and dream to be in show business, be specific.
Apparently you can go from 0 to a complete site in just a single prompt with Wix Harmony. I don't know if this is going to be possible. Or
by the way, I should mention he's high up at Universal. It makes me wonder if that could have been a potential pathway for her to win Miss Arizona in 2012, because NBC Universal Studios, they split ownership back in 2012. Trump owned half, and NBC Universal owned the other half of the pageant. Anyway, I have no proof of that. I'm just saying that that's an interesting tie that Rick is working over at Universal Studios. Now, like I said, for some people, proximity to criminals, non-starter. That's how I would say I live my life. Being close with your brother who tried to kill your sister probably wouldn't be my thing. But with Lori and Erica, it's fine. By the way, I do want to also add that that's one of my favorite things about like gangsters. Like, I'm looking at this family, like, who are the Erpenbecks? Because most people, if they have like a traffic ticket, they got to show it. They got a record. Like, oh gosh, this is going to hurt my chances of getting a job. Erpenbeck, kind of a big deal. $34 million went missing, and he's at the top of Universal Studios. Just incredible. I don't know. I feel like if my brother was like the Zodiac Killer or something, I probably wouldn't be able to go down and work for Disney or Universal Studios. Anyway, moving on. We told you last week that someone sent us the remaining documents pertaining to Lori and Kent's mysterious divorce. Can't even get a decade for when this marriage happened. Just have no idea if it happened in the early 80s or if it happened in 1993. The prevailing narrative from the debunkers is that the initial filing, which I would like to remind you, only had 4 statements of fact, a one-pager. It was simply a clerical error when they listed Erica's birthday as November 22nd rather than the 20th of November, which is the birthday that she has today. Now, to be clear, there was no cleric involved. It's a document filed by Lori, sitting down with her lawyer, reviewing it with her lawyer. And by the way, when you go into a courtroom, you have to swear the statements are true. You have to swear the statements are true. The birthday was what we showed you, also featured on 2 separation agreements authored in 1995 and authored in 1996. So separate documents. But we couldn't access the rest of them. And then I told you someone sent them to us, and we can now show you the remaining filings. We have, at first, I'm going to show you this joint shared parenting plan, which is, you can see, filled in by hand on January 8th. I'm going to go with 1998. That was my best guess. It's hard to tell since someone tried to edit it by hand again. And this is real life, so you just do what you want there. But the point is that Erica's birthday is again listed as November 22nd, 1988. Okay. Then came an amendment to the child support plan, which was drafted on September 10th of 1998. And it is, in my opinion, the most egregious of all the filings. I just want to show you this. There's no notary. There's no judge signing off on another page of it. It's really kind of just Lori. And I think even her attorney was like, this is a bridge too far even for me. And Lori was just like going off of vibes there. And I just I would be remiss if I didn't show you this signature page, because I find the signatures to be very similar between her and Kent. Remember, we're supposed to believe Kent waived off his rights without a notary to these documents. So Lori's kind of running the show. Then I'm going to show you this November 10th, 1998 final decree. This time, Erica's name is typed in. And once again, her birthday is listed as November 22nd, 1988. Let's move on. Let's move on to the medical child support document, which was entered in the following year, January of 1999. This particular document requires the consent of the health insurance company. In this case, it's listed as Aetna. What is entered in as her birthday is November 22nd, 1988. And I want to be clear, this is all for child support. So actually, the only date that really matters here is Erica's birthday. You want to make sure you have the right kid. We're moving on. We're in, it's 1999. They're still, everyone's confused and thinks Erica's birthday. They're actually not confused. They're consistently telling us that it's November 22nd, but we're not done. Let's fast forward to 2004, because maybe from 1995 to 1999, multiple people, including the parents of the child, were just making clerical errors. Maybe what's needed to straighten people out is a new decade, Y2K vibes. Let's get into the 2000s. Well, in July of 2004, Kent defaulted on his child support payments, and the enforcement agency recorded the default plus Erica's birthday. And as you can see, once again, we have it listed here as November 22nd, 1988. Apparently, there isn't a clerk across 10 years that can type in 20.
I have a 134 IQ. I make less money than friends who barely passed high school. Here's what I finally discovered. Last week, a kid I tutored in high school posted on Facebook. He just made partner at his law firm, bought a vacation home.
As opposed to 22. Let's go 2007. Because I like 2007, right? Good memes. I graduated high school. They released the final installment of the Harry Potter book series, which I was reading. I mean, I just feel like nobody got anything wrong in 2007. Fantastic year, right? Except for whoever filed for Erica's child support emancipation. Now she's 18. You don't got to pay child support anymore. You got to go back and file things. And once again, her birthday is listed as November 22nd, 1988. The point I'm making here is everything about this marriage, everything about this divorce, everything about Erica's early years is shady. And the beginning matters. The beginning matters deeply. We opened this series reading Elizabeth Lane, the investigative journalist, her thesis that she presented that Erica Kirk might be a psychopath, not a sociopath, but a psychopath. She argued that is what disturbs us when we see her speak. Something's not right. The brain is registering that words are coming out of her mouth, but the expressions are not right. The actions are not right. And our body kind of has a natural defense system that comes online. Before we can even register what it is that makes us uncomfortable, we pull back. People say, I can't watch her. I can't listen to her. I hope she does well, but I don't even want to watch this. Even those that people that do support her, Elizabeth Lane noted, they can't watch her. I want to build upon that. Psychopaths are not born. They are created. Okay. They are created, and typically they are created in their youth. If the work of Sigmund Freud, who rather obsessed himself with creating psychopaths, is to be believed, I would respectfully submit to you all that Erica's childhood is actually the most important piece of the puzzle. Because no matter what anyone is trying to tell you, Erica is not posting her mother in the way that she is without intent right now. Okay, she didn't post her mother for years, and then she suddenly moves to post her mother in a vulnerable, sick position a mere days before Charlie's assassinated. Two to 3 days before he's assassinated. That registers to me as emotionally manipulative. I don't know many people, or really any people, who would move to curate an Instagram reel of their mother in that condition. Most of all, I don't know many people who would want or allow them to, right? So that tells us also something's not right with Lori. Something's not right with Lori. Why would you want someone curating these moments of you and putting it online as if to say, hey, don't even look here, leaking to people that she's like, without any clarity, it's not coming from Erica, but she wants you to imagine. One person said, oh, I heard her mother has cancer. They're putting this out here without any clarity. Who is Lori? Lori's a very interesting character. I think, like I've said to you, her mother's got a lot of problems, but what somebody dug up, something that Charlie shared about Erica's mother is shocking. Absolutely shocking. More about her ancestry. I'd like to apologize in advance to sports fans. We'll tell you when we get back from a little break. All right, you guys, thanks to you, last year, Preborn helped rescue over 80,000 babies, and today you can help save even more. Every single day, thousands of women hear the same devastating lie, that abortion is their only option, that they're alone, and that there's no hope. But everything changes the moment a mother in crisis walks into a Preborn network clinic and sees her baby on an ultrasound. That one moment doubles her chance of choosing life, because they
So a pro-life clinic. And then she goes on to wellness company. Then a brand of chips. High integrity under capitalism. Wouldn't want that anarchy or communism.
Okay, you guys, I need you to listen very carefully. A little bit of history. I'm going to go through it quickly. You have probably heard, maybe vaguely, the conspiracy, quote unquote, conspiracy, people who print the textbooks, that we're being ruled by the Khazarian mafia, right? This empire that existed 8th and 9th and 10th century about, and then magically disappeared. Magically, nobody knew. It was a Turkic tribe. They were a nomadic tribe. And then they mass converted to Judaism, okay? But they were not ethnically Jewish. They mass converted to Judaism, and they mixed in, okay? They mixed in with people who were actually Jews. And they call this a conspiracy, that the people that live in Israel right now are the Khazarian mafia. They call that a conspiracy, but if you read books that were printed in Israel by the Israelis, they themselves declared that they were Khazarian. You could look, a guy named Abraham Pollock is an example, who wrote a book, did all of the research. He was awarded for his research and said, hey, we're that tribe. We are the Turks that mass converted to Judaism. And then he was told that was inconvenient after they awarded him. After 1948, they were like, oh, no. We're claiming we're the original Jews in the Bible. So let's just get rid of all this research. Something else that you should know about this conspiracy, actually, rather, something that's definitely not a conspiracy, you just need to research things outside of Hollywood movies. You know, that Italian mafia, it was actually Jewish, maybe Khazarian Jewish. Hollywood was, as we know, factually started by Jewish gangs. Universal, MGM, there's no hiding that, okay? There's no denying it. Initially, they were carnies, people that were running the carnivals. They would wow people with illusions, right? The occultists. And then they said, let's do this on a larger scale. Let's do movies. Let's get people to pour into cathedrals, put on a show. That's why you go to carnival. Oh, it's so much magic and illusion. Well, I want you to understand that movies are another illusory trick. It captures your imagination. It captures your emotions. And it's almost never based in reality. For example, the prevailing narrative is that the Italian mafia, just for no reason, we don't know why, they partnered with Meyer Lansky and Bugsy Siegel, the Italian, and then the Jewish mafia got together. No, yes, the Italian mafia, they spoke Italian, but that's because they emigrated to Italy after revolutions. Reality, and you need to listen to this backwards and forward and do your own research. The reality is that in 1881, the Russian Tsar was assassinated by a Jewish revolutionary gang from what was known as the Pale of Settlement, okay? So you had a Christian empire, and then what was carved out was, like, if you were Jewish, you had to live in the Pale of Settlement because they required that you were Christian if you were going to live within the kingdom. The world was dominated by Christian kingdoms. And so you know that expression when you say that was beyond the pale? Probably don't even know why you say that. Oh, what he did was beyond the pale. You're actually referring to the Pale of Settlement, which is where the Jews had to live. Now, they were allowed to work inside of the kingdom, but you had to be a Christian to live within the kingdom. The Pale of Settlement consisted of modern-day Poland, Ukraine, and Lithuania. This is very important for you to understand this. After the assassination, Many of the associated people that were involved, little gang that put together, they emigrated to Italy. They emigrated to the United States. You learn this in your textbook as there were pogroms. Like no context for no reason, kicked out of a country. There's actually no evidence they were ever kicked out, but they left. The revolutionaries left. And there were actually all throughout this time frame, by the way, these sorts of revolutions happening all across Europe, trying to overthrow and divide Christian kingdoms. Deeply organized revolutions. Initially, they failed. German revolution failed. Italy, Austria, failed revolutions of 1848. They were commies. The revolutionaries, you could also refer to the revolutionaries as murderous psychopaths. And then they emigrated in mass into the United States as victims. And they brought with them their revolutionary ideas. I like to say they were anarchists, obviously, but also you should think of them as gypsies in the truest sense of the word. They will learn any language, become what they have to come, move wherever they need to move. And wherever they go, they bring their filth with them. Okay, we get these migrants into the company, and then suddenly the people that assassinated the Tsar, then we get the first bombing in America at the Haymarket Square in Chicago. That involved, quote unquote, German immigrants. The assassination of President McKinley, done by a Polish man named Leon Czolgosz, who was radicalized by a Jewish Russian immigrant named Emma Goldman. Her family was from the Pale of Settlement. They were not like poor living in the Pale of Settlement. They were wealthy Jews, educated Jews. There are tons of books about what they did. I could do 12 episodes on Emma Goldman, by the way. Her alone, the amount of assassinations connected to her. She was also the woman that was behind Margaret Sanger, Planned Parenthood. Emma's boyfriend, also from the Pale of Settlement, tried to assassinate Henry Frick of the U.S. Steel. He literally shot him. You've probably heard the story. They shot him, but Henry Frick survived. They're just murderous communists. I don't know what to tell you. And they did that, tried to kill Frick because they wanted to establish unions. So you learn in school, it was about workers' rights. Yeah. They organized these worker strikes and these protests, and eventually they were successful in establishing unions because that allowed them to establish racketeering, mafias. You guys know unions are associated with mafia and the mobs. This is our inheritance. Our entire history and our present is a gangster's paradise in America. Hollywood exists to glamorize the filthiest people, that work in the most debased industries. It's not entertainment. It's always been disgusting. It's always been about filth, prostitution, importing people from Vienna and trying to collapse America. Successful all across Europe, what they did. The Christian empires got divided. And here we are today, right? This is what we're facing in America. You have to understand this. So you get to this mafia, you get to the mobs, you get to, obviously, usury. You will always know them by what the filth that they bring. Okay, think about the Great Depression. What was that about? Oh, now we need, we got to establish this, the Fed. We got to establish the Fed because of the Great Depression. And the history of sports is an interesting subject. We start bringing that up because sports was a distraction. It is a form of entertainment. I'm not trying to ruin these things for you. There's so many incredible movies about the history of sports. I love Remember the Titans. It's legitimately one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. Love it. But I would say that I don't have a truer sense of what or who began the sports industry. I'm just a girl. Never wound up here. But I'm telling you this because I think Lori Franzway is rotten to her core, and I therefore found it unbelievably interesting that someone located an old interview, an Ask Me Anything segment from Charlie Kirk's show. The person emailed me and they said, Candace, quote, I listened to Charlie's podcast, the rebroadcast last night by the TPUSA crew regarding his thoughts on the past Super Bowls. Charlie was speaking about the Green Bay Packers and mentioned that Erica's mom is a direct line to the Lombardi family. Oh, I thought this might be an interesting piece to your puzzle, they concluded. Excuse me? A direct descendant to Vince Lombardi? Now, for those of you that don't follow sports because you're just a girl too, or more specifically, those of you who do not follow American sports because Americans think football's so big, but obviously it's just confined to America. Vince Lombardi might be the most famous American football coach of all time. Okay, of all time, he is actually so famous that the Super Bowl trophy is named after him. So once the football players, whoever wins Super Bowl, they receive what's called the Lombardi Trophy. That's named after Vince Lombardi. Okay, the Green Bay Packers, and people in the comments are going to kill me, but I'm pretty sure that was the first Super Bowl ever. I'm going to have to look that up. Skylar, you can look that up for me. I'm not positive. Erica Kirk, a direct descendant? No, I'd have to hear Charlie say that myself. That can't be right. Well, sure enough, we went to investigate, and Charlie did communicate that very fact. Take a listen.
The Packers won the first Super Bowl. You know, my wife, Erica, is from the Lombardi family.
Really? Is that right? Seriously?
Yeah.
That's royal blood.
Her mom's a Lombardi.
That's
Literally,
crazy.
Isn't that insane?
That's royal
like
blood.
how close? Like, is she
like direct bloodline?
Like lineal descent from Vince?
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, we have all this Packers stuff at our house.
I didn't know that.
Whoa,
that's interesting.
Isn't that
That
great?
is wild.
And I'm from a huge Bears family, so I don't know.
Whoa.
I'm just going to let you guys digest that. Oh, Lori, direct descendant from Vince Lombardi? I can tell you my first thought was, Charlie's not lying, because take it from me, he's not dumb enough to tell a lie that big on camera. Okay? He's not going to do that. He knows they will fact check him real quick. So my only other option was, is Erica lying? Obviously, I would rank that as a strong possibility were it not for the fact that Charlie said that they had a ton of Vince Lombardi's paraphernalia around the house. A direct descendant, lineal descendant from Vince Lombardi. You're hearing this from his own mouth. Erica's mother, he is saying, is a Lombardi. I said, Charlie, not known for hyperbole. He knows words have meaning. A direct descendant, therefore, would mean that Lori is Vince Lombardi's offspring. Or that's really our only option here, given the ages. Lori's born in 1950. And I have to say, once I heard him say it, Lori and her sister, Deborah, do look like Vince.
You, just you, building your app on base 44. Describe it. And it's real. One thought leads to more thoughts. Layer.
Vince, I see it. And I thought it was interesting that I could never find a photo of her parents. Curiously enough, though, the person listed as her parent, Angela Lombardo. Well, that's actually, her name was Angela Lombardo. And curiously enough, we can confirm that her mother is a Lombardo. That's her maiden name. In other words, Erica's maternal grandmother is Angelina Lombardo Abbas. You can see that here in this obituary from 1970. The bottom there, it says that. Angeline, wife of Joseph Abbas of Cincinnati, Ohio. Okay, so what's going on here? Because that still wouldn't make her a direct, unless people have multiple identifications. I can't get there, but I know that Charlie is being pretty explicit and saying direct lineage, and I don't have photos of Erica's mom, of Lori's mom and dad. I wanted to present that because there are many rabbit holes that ought to be explored in the story. I cannot chase them all down because I need to now focus and bring you guys into understanding what happened with Erica and Pageant World and how she was truly brought on Turning Point USA. But I want to share this anyways because it feels very significant. That is not casual. And I'd like to apologize in advance to all the football fans. I know you're thinking, can we have anything? And the answer is no. We cannot have even one thing. Figure it out, guys. Figure it out, internet. Is her name really Angelina Lombardo? Is his name Joe Lombardo? I don't know. Is Lori actually Vince's kid? Did he have one out of wedlock? I don't know. But a direct descendant means a direct descendant. That's, to me, is the only possibility. Why else would you be getting the paraphernalia, which is...
People can lie in that it becomes truth, especially if it's from your parent or grandparent. So her mom could have been like, yeah, you're this person's child. Then gotten the Packer stuff. But Charlie believed it because he was told it by Erica, who was told it by her mother. Anywhere along the telephone line, somebody can lie.
Worth a fortune. And it would also mean that Lombardo and Lombardi are interchangeable, which Charlie has just confirmed, right? He says she's a Lombardi. But actually, according to obituary, she's a Lombardo. If that's the reality, if those are interchangeable, then we can begin to honestly speculate about Lori's potential ties to the Lombardo Genovese crime family, who had a lot to do with illegal gambling and racketeering. It's now all open, it's all on the table, and it is all of interest. Now, like I said, unfortunately, there are no photos of Lori's father and mother that I could find, but it's a strong lead, and I'm going to leave it at that for YouTubers and other sleuths to take a look at. Pivoting back to Erica and Erica's timeline, because now all of the characters that we've introduced to you are in place. You understand kind of the story that we're telling here. I wanted to let you know that we did receive a flurry of emails about Erica's missing year, also a lot of comments. And before we get there, I can tell you, we can confirm now that Erica did attend St. Ursula Villa up in Cincinnati, Ohio, but she attended what we can document for kindergarten. So that was before she went down to Arizona. We have that photo for you guys here. This would be from 1994 to 1995. And you can see her, just for funsies, her name is spelled differently. It's with a C. Clerical. It's clerical error, another clerical error. They're all over. But I wanted to let you know, we thus far, no one with a yearbook at St. Ursula Villa has been able to confirm her for 2000 and from 2000 to 2002. So those years are still technically missing. I thought that was where she was for those years, but maybe we had it in reverse. We're going to keep building upon that. We also did receive confirmation from basketball players at St. Regis that we were correct. She did not play in the 2008 to 2009 season, despite in the future, she's going to claim multiple times that she played at Regis for 2 years. She played basketball for 2 years. Well, I can show you this photo that we also gathered of Erica with her Regis University team members. This is taken in December of 2007, but she did not play. Regis University, like I said, her stats are still up. We could not find her in a newspaper. And now we have team members that are confirming that she did not play for the 2008 season. So the mystery remains, where was Erica hiding afterward for 8 months? Many of you guys thought that she went to have a baby. You guys, like in my day, when someone went away for 8 months, it's because they got knocked up and they had to go away. And I've seen no evidence of that. I'm just sharing that because it was a repeat comment. I'm just going to keep following the facts and following Erica's words and sentiments that are shared. And regarding that year, someone sent us another clip of her verifying our timeline. So we are accurate. She goes missing in 2008 to quote unquote study the Bible to see she didn't learn the Bible, as we showed you last week. She didn't learn because she was Catholic and they didn't really study the Bible. Then she got this time with her pastor's wife to just really learn everything. And she says then that it was for 8 months. Well, take a listen to her explaining this again on a different podcast called Don't Ignore the Nudge. Take a listen.
Like with Miss Arizona, I was so done with that world. It was very toxic. I loved my director. I loved the experience I had, but afterwards, it was one of those things where I was so sold out and focused on Christ that I didn't want anything from that past or that world to follow with me into the new season that I was about to enter into. And so for me, it was all about I literally had locked myself in my room and read my Bible. And the only person I saw for 6 months was my pastor's wife. And I just had her pour into me. We would meet for lunch or coffee. And I didn't see any of my friends. I didn't do anything. I just was so focused on that.
Okay, you hear it again. This time she locked herself in her room. She's just focused on the Bible. Self-taught. I mean, how much of the Bible could you read if that was the only thing that you were doing for She says 6 months there, 8 months on a different podcast, but it's Erica, so we're not going to hold her to anything consistent. 6 to 8 months. How much of the Bible could you read? And like I said, she presented to it like that was her aha moment. She finally got to have this experience with the Bible because she learned it for real this time. Well, you might assume that she then became familiar with the Bible. But when it comes to Erica, you should never make an assumption, because now we're going to fast forward to her telling Sage Steele the story about how she got acquainted with the Bible thanks to a Christian friend of hers, not in 2008, but in 2016. Take a listen.
The first time I ever read the Bible cover to cover was 2016, and it changed my life. It absolutely changed my life. And that's when I started. So it was me and another friend, and I put together the Bible reading program, and I sent it to my friend. I said, do it with me. I was like, because I don't know what I'm doing, and you've been a Christian your whole life, and I just want to have an accountability partner. Like, please read this with me. 2016, finished the whole thing. It was a wild year. Wow. And after that, everything was in Technicolor, and I was like, I get it now. I get it.
That gives me
And it made me, it's really interesting, because then if ever I do go back to sit in the Catholic Mass, I'm like, now I get the Catholic side even more now after having read the Bible. So I wish that there was more, because even when you go to confirmation class and like all the things, I just wish they would have, and some Catholic churches are great at this. Some Catholic high schools are great at this. Unfortunately, mine weren't as good from the standpoint of get your own Bible and let's crack it open. It was never really like that.
I don't know. I don't know what's up. I don't know what's down. With Erica, it's just, you don't know what the story is. Like, you could say she didn't read it cover to cover in the first 8 months, but I would imagine she didn't need her friend and turn to a friend 8 years later and go, what am I doing? If she had 8 months to study the Bible with a pastor, I think a pastor would be better suited than a friend. I just don't know what is real with Erica. She gives me the vibe of someone whose brain has been rerouted. Like the pathways in her brain have been rerouted from the time that she's a child. Like, she just had to lie so much that she doesn't even recognize that what she's doing is lying. Like, she just says something and it's like, this is what works in this room, exactly as Elizabeth Lane described it. This is what works in this room. This is who I have to be. Okay, I'm sitting with Sage and I'm trying to now explain what brought me back to the Catholic thing. Like, maybe I need to be Catholic this week, or, maybe I need Protestant next week. So I said it at that podcast that I did it because I didn't have an appreciation for Catholicism. But now I'm saying that studying the Bible made me have an appreciation for Catholicism, which I wasn't getting. It's so all over the place. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know, other than someone who was programmed and has had to tell so many different stories that she can't really pedal backwards. She just kind of keeps going and just keeps swimming and just keeps swimming. And what she's going to say tomorrow is not going to be what she said yesterday. It's too many lies. She is obviously not fit to be the CEO and chairman of Turning Point USA, just on the basis of the amount of dishonesty that we can just show you using her own words. Okay? Just using Erica's own words, trying to make sense of anything is a very difficult task. Anyway, we are going to be back after a break. All right, you guys, do you owe back taxes? Maybe you have unfiled tax returns, or have you maybe filed every year but still keep owing somehow? Maybe you retired and suddenly got hit with a tax bill they didn't expect, or maybe you pulled money from your 401k or IRA early and now the IRS wants its share. However your tax issue started, the outcome is always the same. Your balance is not going down, penalties are growing, interest compounds, and many of
Dear God. So as well as me needing to stop how often to skip ads on Candace Owens, she also has 2 different segments of her, let's see, there's 3 from before. Tax USA, Home Title Lock, and American Financing. I'm guessing there's only 3. Only 3.
I have that general sense. I will say that. Do you think something happened to her in her childhood. Tesseract. Well, I'm going to give you tomorrow. Tesseract's direct ties to Fort Huachuca. Man, it's just I just had them everywhere right at the very beginning. I would very much bet that Erica knows what Fort Huachuca is. That just feels right to me. Anyway, that will be tomorrow. Top comments from Friday's episode. Brigitte, if you're reading this, you are still not off the hook. That was hilarious, number one. Second comment is hiding in Ben Shapiro's eyebrows to watch this. These always make me laugh. Also, I remind you guys, if you want to support our show, you can head to CandaceOwens.com and you can buy merch available on the website. Easiest way to support us and support independent journalism that is not selling out to Israel or to anyone, not to the MAGA party, not to the neocons ever. I'm just very grateful to always have the opportunity to share what I believe and to stay loyal and to my fellow Goyim. I'm loyal to them. Anyway, comments from today's episode. Let me scroll down here, see what you guys are thinking. Nance the Rock writes, great work, Candace. Thank you. That was a very big tip. So thank you very much, Nance the Rock. Want to glorify God writes, sure, Erica, you never dated for 5 years in New York. You never, ever entered beauty pageants. You stayed at home for 8 months studying the Bible. You never checked Charlie's texts. You never knew Charlie was afraid for his life. Charlie had a neck of steel, dangerously pathological. Yeah, she's pathological. I would say that. I can't, there's no other explanation. I mean, unless she's telling the truth and Charlie didn't tell her. And maybe they all did know who he thought was going to kill her. The only way that would make sense is if Charlie thought Erica was going to kill him and didn't text Erica. I wouldn't text Erica, Erica's going to kill me. Otherwise, why is your husband not telling you he thinks he's going to die? Now you can make the argument like, oh, you want your wife not to be worried or stressed out about your impending assassination, which is likely coordinated by a foreign government. But I feel like maybe after you were assassinated and you had the phone and access to Dan Flood, who as I broke the story, he did not get fired from Turning Point USA. He had one job, he effed it up, and he did not get fired for some strange reason, which a grieving widow might do. I feel like Dan should have told you that. Andrew Colbert, the PR guy, should have told you that. You guys are coming up together on Charlie's day of Charlie's burial. You're plotting together to say, what should we tell the public? Oh, we'll say he had a steel neck like Superman. He didn't mention that to you? A little sidebar. Sorry to feel bad for Andrew Colbert. I feel bad that they've made him be the person that has to lie and he's kind of catching all these strays, but she's been the hand directing him. I now know that because of the firings. Erica has been directing the messaging from the very beginning. So she went straight from her husband being assassinated to assuming the chairman and CEO to Zoom calls and directing the PR messaging. Andrew's out here catching strays. I don't know why you do it, Andrew. I've got an idea, though. We're going to get to that. Maybe Erica's not the only person who was born into something, hey? Objectio writes, the biggest winners of the CK-EK investigation are the Macrones. It's been half a year, and Candace has barely mentioned Brigitte's dangling. Hey, I actually said today, oh, look, this person looks like Brigitte. So a little joke there. Sonia here for Truth writes, Candace, we are behind you. Keep going, Max. You, your family, and your team are always in my thoughts and prayers. The truth sets us free, and we are free to seek truth. Christ is King. Jesus is Lord of all. Agreed. And thank you for the support. Conjure Up writes, Urban Becks, the same ones committing fraud in Cincinnati, the home builder fraud, the bank folding fraud. I don't think you saw Friday's episode. You should go watch that. Yes, that's Erica's uncle, Rick. Now, she could be, to be clear, not suggesting that they are his actual uncle. She's got some family that she claims to be her family. You know, Nicole Rothstein, cousin. She's over there saying, this is my family's dedication. I don't know if this girl has a full-blown personality disorder where she just becomes the thing in every room, or if she's just like, hey, we've been close, and people do that casually. We'll say, like, that's my uncle. Like I would, if I've got a best friend and they have children, you say, oh, that's her aunt, that's her uncle. I don't know. I don't know what she means by that. And, we can shoot her a question after the show and ask for clarity of whether it's a funkle or a bloodline uncle. I think it's probably just what she calls him because they're close. Tammy Gauss writes, so with Erica's new timeline, how did she manage to read the Bible cover to cover? Oh, wait, I know. She read between all her dates with her sports boys, her Cabot, and dates during
At Vistaprint, we print signs so people can see your brand up close. But we also print signs so that people can see your business here, see it here, and see it here, so you stand out.
During her summer house era, I thought the same thing. I was like, well, 2016 was a bit of a wild year for Erica. You're telling me she also had time to read the Bible cover to cover? That's pretty hard. That's pretty hard to do if you actually had nothing to do, which is what she did for 8 months, where I personally feel like she was maybe training somewhere. Otherwise, why try to wipe that year by claiming that you played basketball for another year when you didn't? I don't know. I feel like she was doing some Christian training, perhaps. Again, it's my opinion. It's my podcast. I'll share my opinion. Misty writes, why are they still calling it the Charlie Kirk Show? It's time to retire the name in respect of Charlie's memory. How about the Turning Point Show? I think that wouldn't even do it justice. Turning Point makes people think that it's Charlie's legacy. It's not. They should rename the company. They should rename it Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom USA. And that would be a better representation of its new leadership, its new opinions, neocons, which Charlie could not stand. These people, he couldn't stand them at all. And there's no grieving widow on the face of the planet, a truly grieving widow who could bear to be around the enemies of your assassinated husband in that regard. So everything and every manner that she is moving registers to me as someone who is a pathological liar, and which we've proven already. We haven't even gotten into all the other lies. We haven't even gotten into her relationships. We haven't even taken you further through her backstory and how she was brought to Turning Point USA. There are so many more lies. But I think what we could agree on just this far in is the fact that we know nothing about Erica Kirk, and I don't think Erica knows anything about Erica Kirk. I think she was created. And I mean that genuinely. Anyway, reminding you again, if you would like to support the show, please head to CandaceOwens.com, buy some merch, sign up for a subscription, and join the book club. We have another meeting on Friday. We just started a new book. I never remember book titles. The Secret Founding of America, The Real Story of Freemasons, Puritans, and the Battle for the New World. It's actually, as we've already learned, crypto Jews. DNA evidence has suggested that's already a very compelling read to learn true history, which is so important. If we have any shot in the future, we have to understand what happened in the past. I will leave it there, and we will see you guys tomorrow.
I don't know if I want to continue here. Possibly. I'm just going to end this one. I might be on one of the other channels. I did it here because it was November 22nd in McKinley. That's enough. Usually there has to be 3, but